Oh.
Yes, it is the cure for nickel and diming syndrome.
I could use a hug.
It's radio. No subscription required.
This is Public Pulse, your information and conversation program, brought to you by Eliason Financial. You can voice your opinion by calling 672-KROE. That's 672-5763. Now, your host for Public Pulse, Floyd Whiting.
Good morning and welcome to Public Pulse. This morning I am joined in the studio by the mayor of Claremont, Wyoming, Mayor Chris Schock. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
Now, you've been the mayor of Claremont before, haven't you? This isn't your first rodeo.
No, I was mayor 4 years ago. At that time, I stepped down as mayor and I ran for county commissioner, which I ran against 10 people, and it turned into a beauty queen contest. And then I was asked by Mike Madden in Buffalo to run against Richard Tass as a independent. And so I got the required signatures that I needed, and I got in that race over there. And I was unsuccessful in that race too, but well, I shouldn't say unsuccessful. I met a lot of people, and I really enjoy meeting people and getting out and talking to them and hearing their concerns from the state of Wyoming and, concerns in their hometowns and everything. And, it was enjoyable. So really, it wasn't unsuccessful. I met a lot of people, and it was great.
Yeah, the election process itself, campaigning, getting out there. Did it give you a better feel for the concerns of individuals around the area?
Yeah, and some of the concerns I heard were off the wall, everything from gold mining and the bighorns to,
yeah,
it was interesting. You never think that people have concerns about permits on gold mining in the bighorns, and I never realized that.
Yeah.
You see Gold Rush on TV and you think it's all in Alaska, but bighorns, gold mining up there.
Yeah, not a whole lot that I would think about gold mining up in the bighorns. Now, since the last time you were mayor and now, how much has changed in being mayor of Claremont?
Not much. I started June 1st is when I took office, and it just seems like I haven't missed a beat at all. The 4 years that I was off, I was still involved, talking with the past mayor and everything, and he would ask me for advice and stuff like that. So I stayed involved with the town. Last summer we had a emergency water line project.
Yeah.
It helps that I have the governor's cell phone numbers on my speed dial, and I was able to directly talk with Mark Gordon and get that all going for the emergency SLIB loan.
Yeah.
That was we got that going and got that all done and everything, and it turned out good.
You're pleased with the results of all that effort then?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything's working the way it's supposed to out there now.
Right. Yeah. We still got water.
Thank God. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you originally born?
I was originally born in Billings, but I was raised in Sheridan, working on ranches around Sheridan as I grew up. I graduated from Tongue River High School way back when, 1977, and I tell younger people that, and they kind of look at me like,
different world.
You're ancient.
Different world.
And then directly after I graduated from high school, I went in the Air Force.
Oh, how long did you serve in the Air Force?
20 years.
You did a full 20 years?
Yep.
Now, what was your job within the force itself?
I was aircraft maintenance, specifically the fuel systems on C-130s, 141s, KC-135s.
C-130s. I love that Hercules. She's beautiful. She is really fun to ride in. Just the best way to describe it is imagine a flying cargo truck.
Yes.
Very little comfort, but it's certainly an adventure when you're in there, isn't it?
Right, and it's a tough airplane.
Oh, those birds can take quite a bit of action.
Yes.
I was flying into a part of southern Iraq when they did one of their. It's not an emergency landing. It's like I guess you could say a preventative landing. It catches you by surprise. It's just a certain technique that the pilots use to get you on the ground with possible RPG fire.
Okay,
man,
quick.
It shifts you right out of your seat. So stay buckled up. Now, how were you raised? Is it more like a ranch style
Yes.
background?
Yes. And,
A lot of ag in your life.
Right. I can remember being 8 or 9 years old, stacking small square bales at a penny a bale.
Oh.
And at that time, I thought it was big money.
You were earning it.
Yeah. And, a lot of summers stacking hay, moving cows up the mountains, just everyday ranch life. So, yeah, it was, I played football at Tongue River too, and the coaches never worried about the kids working out in the summertime because they knew we were going to be stacking hay and stuff like that, and that was our workout. With the weather the way it is now, it'd be a great year to stack hay, but now they've got all big round bales and big square bales, and everything's done with machinery, so...
Yeah, so now they got to hit the gym.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in the service, how far away did you go? Where was your favorite duty station?
I was stationed in McCord for 12 years, right after 9/11 broke out. I ended up over in Afghanistan at Kabul, working out of a warehouse there. So I was there for a time and then back stateside, and I'm all over, and Tacoma, flown into Great Falls a couple times, flown into Alaska, just flew all over the world.
What was your favorite plane when you were in?
C-130.
Oh, see? Yeah, we share that. Now, when the decision came down that you were going to run for mayor again, what led to that? What chain of thinking got you to the point where you said, you know what, I'm going to go in again and do this job one more time?
There's some projects I'd like to see finished up in Claremont, and obviously with the COVID and everything was put on hold, and I'd like to see those projects finished up. We've got more water lines to replace. We've got we've got other things that I'm concerned about. Housing and. Main thing's getting the infrastructure up, because when I do something, I think 50 years down the road. Yeah. How's it going to benefit people 50 years down the road? And I want to ensure in my mind that Claremont will be there 50 years down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, for those who don't know, we've got a lot of new individuals in the area. How big is Claremont?
Right now, we're 150 people. At one time, Claremont used to be 250, almost 300 people. Had a couple of banks there, couple bars there. Of course, there's a bar in every Wyoming town.
Every little Wyoming town, yeah.
So it was thriving. Claremont is right in the middle of Gillette, Sheridan, and Buffalo. Yeah. We're right in the middle, and I've always thought of Claremont as a bedroom community. It'd be a great place for people to live, and they could drive to Sheridan, Buffalo, or Gillette for employment.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of an ancillary area.
Yes.
Something that's a little bit more than just your average neighborhood.
Right. Yep.
You know, a separate town. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we return. We'll continue with the mayor of Claremont. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE, 103.9 FM, Sheridan.
This is Eric Jacobson, partner at Eliason Financial. I think we can all agree that living and working in Sheridan, Wyoming is an absolute privilege. At Eliason Financial, we support our community through volunteerism, philanthropy, and making a positive economic impact. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Eliason Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
You know, it doesn't take years of experience poring over spreadsheets of other people's money to figure out that Wyoming doesn't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem, and that's our money. Additionally, all of that experience is meaningless if your representative doesn't have a genuine conservative perspective and a backbone. I'm Ken Pendergraft. I'm a combat veteran because I chose to be. Married 40 years because I choose to be, and promises are meant to be kept. I'm a preacher because I'm called to be, and I'm a conservative Republican because I value those ideals that made this country great. This message is paid for by the committee to elect Ken Pendergraft to House District 29. I am Ken Pendergraft, and I'm asking for your vote on August 16. I approve this message, and you should too.
The election boundaries have been redrawn to comply with 2022 legislation, and these changes may have affected your voting precinct, polling place, House and Senate districts, or school district. If you received a blue card in the mail, please check it for changes that have affected you. If you have moved or have questions, don't wait until the August 16th primary election to ask. Call the Sheridan County Election Office today at 674-2515. That's 674-2515, or email elections@sheridancountywy.gov.
Now's the time to start those projects you've been dreaming about. Excavation, landscaping, or home improvement. Wagner Ranch Services has the materials. Wagner Ranch Services carries many types of gravel, scoria, topsoil, and landscaping products. Check out Wagner's landscaping display, where you can view a variety of landscaping materials that can be picked up from the yard or delivered. Wagner Ranch Services, 13 Industrial Lane, 307-752-2787. Open Monday through Friday from 7 to 5.
I'm talking with Candace Crane from Sheridan Honda.
Tommy, hi. Did you know that Honda has the best gas mileage of any national brand?
Oh, that's huge these days.
It definitely is, and it's no secret that new cars are hard to find. So Honda's offering more peace of mind when buying used. The Honda Certified Warranty comes with extended powertrain coverage, a free oil change, and 90 days of Sirius XM radio.
Now discover the best way to buy used at Sheridan Honda. Stop in today.
Good morning and welcome back to Public Pulse, brought to you by our buddies over there at Eliason Financial. I'm Floyd Whiting, and with me this morning is the mayor of Claremont, Wyoming, Mr. Mayor Chris Schock. Now, Mr. Mayor, what are a few of the capital construction projects that are planned out at Claremont? Before we took a commercial break, you said that was one reason why you wanted to return to the seat.
I've already talked to the engineers. They're already figuring prices up, but I finishing the water lines on the west side of the town, or the east side of the town, and then getting a raw water system for the residents so they can water their yards. Currently, our water out there is pretty high in sodium and fluoride, and it's not really conducive for growing green lawns. So I'd like to get a raw water system in, somewhat like Dayton has. So they're working on that. I gave them 4 options to look at trying to get the raw water there. One option's bringing it out of the ditch. We have the Paris Frat ditch that goes through the town there, and we currently water the town parks and greenways with that water, and those thrive real well because it's ditch water. And then, I talked about we have a lagoon system for our sewer system, and the third settling pond is pretty well settled out, and it's, almost regular water. So I talked about pumping it out of that to the into the system. Talked about an offshoot of the ditch to go above west of town there. I've also talked about maybe drilling a shallow well. And speaking of wells, currently, when I was in office, I had a water well, well number 3 drilled, and they're currently in the process of going to hook that into our system. So we'll have 3 water wells that'll provide drinking water for the town. One of our wells, well number 1, is starting to deplete. It's been in existence for 45 years, so it's starting to go down. So this third well that we'll put online will help make it so that well number 1 won't deplete completely. And with this ARP money that's out there, I got our name on the list for, even extending town hall, making it bigger, and just projects like that. They said gold for gold because that money's out there. It's a one-time deal money. I've also talked with Governor Gordon, and him and I both agree that this money's a one-time deal, so we need to use it as wisely as possible, because when the money's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
I do realize that there's other towns that have their hands opened up. So, I'm trying to get us in the forefront so we get as much money as we can. There used to be a running joke around the state of Wyoming that if you walked into a SLIB meeting and the mayor of Claremont was there, might as well turn around and walk out because he's getting the money.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes.
Good. Well, I mean, to some extent, that's good because, when you sit down to prepare a budget, especially from, the difference being, like, I talked to a lot of mayors of larger towns and cities. What is that process like for you in a small town?
Well, in a small town, in larger towns, they've got sales tax that they collect from. We only have one convenience store, so there's not much sales tax there. So in a town of Claremont right now, we depend on that direct distribution money that comes from the state. If that money was to go away, I'd be cutting my budget by 40%.
My goodness.
So we really depend on that money. Cap tax money and the 1 cent optional money. The cap tax money we depend on for infrastructure, and the 1 cent optional money we depend for on infrastructure and operation costs. So, and when I was mayor before on the cap tax money, I didn't take what I got and use it on one project. I leveraged that money to go after grants, matching grants. And I'm going to have to do the same with the cap tax money that I'm getting because it's a 25% match on getting grants from the state for infrastructure and stuff like that. Also, this ARP monies can be used for safety in a municipality. And I'd like to see a deputy stationed out there in Claremont. I know there's been some deputies expressed interest on living out in Claremont. It'd be great to have a presence of a deputy in town. Granted, they can't enforce the ordinances, but just the presence
Yeah.
would help.
Yeah, kind of a community policing effort.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I often talked with Sheriff Thompson and Under Sheriff Dominguez about their meetings that they have out there at Claremont. Do you feel that the communication lines between Claremont and the sheriff's office are as open as they can be?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I do. In every council meeting we have, a deputy comes out, and I always ask him, is there anything major going on and we need to know about? And also, they all have my phone number, so
Yeah.
if something's going on, they'll usually give me a call and let me know what's up.
Now, when you sit down to prepare your budget, you and I spoke briefly at the commercial break. Your staff isn't that large.
No.
Being out there, Claremont, you don't really need one. But you have had an advantage with the maintenance over the last couple of years, and that's kind of coming to an end, isn't it?
Yes, my current maintenance guy, he's a retired Navy guy out, and he's going to be retiring full time in a year. He gave me a year notice.
Just a good guy, right there.
So, with our budget, we're not able to offer benefits or anything. Currently the maintenance guy works 32 hours a week. My clerk works 20 hours a week, and no benefits. So it's really hard filling those positions. So we're going to be advertising. The advertisement will go out. I'll advertise statewide, and I may have to go nationwide to advertise, because it's a challenge to find someone to come to Claremont to work and housing for them and everything like that. It's a real challenge. The town may have to get creative. We may have to provide housing for them. I don't know what the future
As an incentive to bring someone in.
Right. I often joke with the school district out there that if they hire a new teacher, they got to make sure their spouse can work for the town.
Yeah. They need something to do? Bring them in, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you so much for coming in today. We've run out of time, but I'd love to have you back anytime you'd like. Claremont is a beautiful little town.
Well, thank you.
And I think, having you on, talk about it, kind of brings like a reality to individuals. You guys just had Claremont Days, and before we go, how did that turn out?
Turned out great. I would say probably about 80 to 100 people showed up. It was a free lunch. We served buffalo burgers. It was donated by Powder River Energy. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of political candidates there. So it was all right. There was a lot of vendors in the park too. And it was a great time.
How'd the soapbox derby turn out?
Good. I'm not sure who won. I got there at the tail end, and but I think they had a list on Sheridan Media of who won and everything. So
it's I love the fact that we can still have little things like that. And how American is a soapbox derby race?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for coming in today.
Okay, thank you.
All right, when we come back, we'll speak with Wyoming House District 51 Representative Cyrus Western. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE, 103.9 FM, Sheridan.
This is Eric Jacobson, partner at Eliason Financial. I think we can all agree that living and working in Sheridan, Wyoming is an absolute privilege. At Eliason Financial, we support our community through volunteerism, philanthropy, and making a positive economic impact. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Eliason Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
This is Alicia Cox with Harker Mellinger LLC. Since 1983, Harker Mellinger has been a leading accounting firm in Sheridan. We are here to help you succeed in your business and provide services which are customized to meet your financial needs and allows you to spend more time managing your business. Call today to see how we can provide you with cost-effective solutions. 672-0785 in Sheridan. Parker Mellinger, our focus is where you're going, not where you've been.
I'm Michelle Hart from Cody, Wyoming. Last year, my husband Tim was on a wildland fire down in New Mexico, and he was injured parachuting into the fire, and he unfortunately passed away 9 days later. Shortly after he died, I actually went to DC and asked to meet with Liz. We had a very intense and emotional conversation about these issues. Liz was really surprised when I was telling her about the issues of homelessness, pay disparity. She really wanted to do something about that. Those words were followed up with action. I just really enjoyed of getting to work with her and having her supporting Tim's Act in the House and really pushing and putting pressure on legislators to be able to do something to fix these issues that are really critical to the public safety. She's a true fighter on their behalf, and I look forward to continuing to get to work with her until these issues are fully resolved. And I know I have her commitment in doing that.
I'm Liz Cheney, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Liz Cheney for Wyoming.
The rodeo is part of who we are. It's our history, our identity. But boy, this is not your granddaddy's rodeo anymore. The YO is bigger, better, and bolder. Larger purses, tougher competition, and a whole lot of family fun. Come for the World Champion Indian Relay Races, high-stakes PRCA action, and a warm welcome unlike anywhere else in the world. You gotta be here to feel it. Get your tickets at SheridanWyoRodeo.com.
Buying an extended vehicle contract from Hammer Chevrolet is always beneficial, especially if you're looking to keep your vehicle for a long time, Troy Baker. Bob, there are a lot of scams out there when it comes to extended warranties for your vehicle. Come in and sit down and let's put together a well-thought-out extended contract that works for you. Give yourself peace of mind when you're on the road. An extended contract from Hammer Chevrolet will give you peace of mind when you're on the road this summer. Hammer Chevrolet, 107 East Alger, online, hammerchevy.com.
This is Eric Jacobson, partner at Eliason Financial. I think we can all agree that living and working in Sheridan, Wyoming is an absolute privilege. At Eliason Financial, we support our community through volunteerism, philanthropy, and making a positive economic impact. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Eliason Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
What do we got to do?
Good morning and welcome back to Public Pulse, brought to you by our friends out there at Eliason Financial. I'm Floyd Whiting. Now, due to the census results, the state of Wyoming redistricted the borders of representation within the state. One of the key players in that process and running for re-election this year, I am joined by House District Representative Mr. Cyrus Western. Good morning, Mr. Western. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks so much, Floyd, for having me back.
Now, how have you been?
Been good. Been quite busy, but good. You know, I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary of marriage yesterday.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
Haven't gotten thrown out of the house yet.
Sleeping in the doghouse. Yeah, still
so far,
inside. Still inside.
You know, between that work and legislative and campaign stuff, I just don't have a ton of free time. But things are good. The Bighorn Trail Run was this past weekend out in Dayton. Michelle puts on an excellent job out there. She has an amazing crew of volunteers, and I was just lucky to help out a little bit. So things have been busy, but good.
Now, do you run?
No, as a matter of fact. And it was really inspiring because one of the categories is the 100-mile race.
Goodness, yeah.
They started at 9 a.m. on Friday morning, and they were rolling in Saturday afternoon. And they do it by age category, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, etc. And there's one category, 60 to 69.
Wow.
And there is a woman who ran, she was like 62, 63, I think, and she ran the 100 miles, and she completed it. And she ran the whole time.
What an inspiration.
It was incredible. And I was emceeing the awards, and I just said, I can't run 1 mile, let alone 100 of them. But it was very inspiring.
Well, that's fantastic.
There are folks from all across the country, multiple countries. And there's, I think, a third or so of the runners, a quarter to a third, our local folks, Sheridan, Johnson, Campbell, and the Natrona counties, like there are Wyoming people there. So it's a good mix.
My wife's a runner, and she once told me that she gets into like this meditative state.
Right.
It's really good for her mental health. She says, and
right.
I don't know how people do that, because in the service I had to keep up on my physical prowess, and so I had to run every now and then. And for me, it's not meditative.
Right.
It's absolute torture.
Yeah. There's this thing called meditation. I just call it sleep. But, that's just me.
It is a campaign year for you. How do you gear up your campaign? Is there a process that you like to go through or anything?
Yeah. I mean, I think it just starts with, you can spend all the money on mailers or digital or radio or whatever, but I think it really, at the core of your campaign, has to be you out there in your district talking to folks, showing up to events, the Bighorn Trail Run, obviously, go up and seeing folks there, showing up to the town council meetings, those kind of things. It's the old Wayne Gretzky quote. You want to skate to where the puck's going to be, not where it's at, right? You can't sit there and expect people just to call you and talk to you. You got to go and skate to where the puck is going to be and meet the voters where they are. So that's my general approach. And obviously we can get more nuanced and detailed than that, but at a broad level, that's kind of my thought process.
Now, you're also a sportsman, and so
big time.
When your summer months, what do you like to consume?
It's kind of tough because summer months is, that's time to be, shooting your bow and scouting and all that stuff. So I'm going to have to be sacrificing some of that just because it's campaign season. You got to prioritize, but luckily, the primary is before September, so I get a nice little respite right after that, and I get to go chase elk in the mountains. So I'm very, very excited. So
now, when was the instant you decided I'm gonna run for re-election, and what led you to make that decision?
I mean, I always knew, obviously, that this is something I really enjoy doing, and it's incredibly fulfilling work. There are obviously moments where it can be really frustrating and discouraging, but on the balance, it's an incredibly rewarding thing to be a part of. That you are, it may not be a big part, but you are playing a part in a process that has been evolving over thousands of years since the times of ancient Athens, when they had basically a version of our House where you have a bunch of members, you have hundreds of members that are allowed to vote. That process then put forward, and it got refined in Rome with the Senate and an executive type branch. Granted, that was an emperor that was not elected, but this is something that has been an evolution for thousands of years. And I think once you understand that process and the insane bloodshed that has been wrought over that time frame to enable this process to happen, so that we can have free and fair elections, so that we can choose our leaders, have peaceful transition of power. Once you understand that, it's like, whoa. I feel that obligation where I have to, go for it. I have to participate, because the price of not is too high, and it's so many people have sacrificed so much centuries before my time to enable this to happen too, so that this can happen. And so that's a really big thought for me. And so that's always in the back of my mind. And that's why I'm running for re-election at a big scale. And obviously, bring it down to the Wyoming level, there's lots of important issues that are going on, property taxes, which I know we'll talk about here in a bit. There's things regarding sportsmen that I want to get done. Our state's economic future, there's some question marks there. There's some big problems out there that need to be worked on. And I would much rather be in the field, taking the blows, but trying to move the ball downfield versus in the stands, cheering and jeering. That's my approach.
Yeah, watching the process get done.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Now, what is the part of being a representative that you enjoy the most?
Aside from just being part of the whole process of getting things done, there's some great people I work with who are very smart, who are very motivated, who are incredibly knowledgeable about the state, about how our state works at the most fundamental levels. Working with them is a really awesome thing and very rewarding. You're getting legislation through. The process is designed to intentionally have a lot of bills fail. And that's good, because you want to, in theory, make sure that the best ideas make it all the way through. From the time a bill is filed for introduction to the time it makes the governor's desk, There are 9 opportunities for that bill to fail. 9. And that's good because it allows multiple opportunities for critical questions to be asked. If there is critique, if there are improvements. So when you do get something through that process, you feel like you win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, climbing that mountain.
Yeah. Even if it's a small, relatively inconsequential bill, it's still a big deal. Like the one I got done for sportsmen that increased public access and funding for wildlife crossings and those things. Man, it's, there wasn't a stadium full of people cheering me on, but it still felt really good to actually do that and say, hey, I improved something. Maybe not by a ton, but at least a little bit. I got to move the ball downfield.
And that's kind of part of government, isn't it? And it's something that a lot of people need to understand, that it's not going to be a big, the 100-yard throw every time. It's
if you can get a
yard
first down
by yard.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So that's it's a really, really rewarding thing when you do get something done.
And we've got a caller right now. Go ahead, caller. You're on Public Pulse.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Western. I have a question for you, and I think you might be going to hit on it a little later, but it has to do with property tax evaluation. And the Revenue Committee for the House had a bill sponsored by, I believe, Mr. Jennings and also Mr. Beitman, which would have brought to the attention of the legislature property tax evaluation. And as you are aware, I'm sure, many people have been quite shocked at the fair market sales ratio, CAMA, appraisal of their property.
Right.
So you voted against that, against bringing forward an examination of that, perhaps a change.
Right.
As I understand it, I will get off the phone if you would care to address the reason why you voted against it. You must have familiarity with the bill. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Vicki, for calling. I'm actually really glad you asked that question. So that was a study bill. And what a study bill is it's simply directing the legislature and its staff to put together a study, kind of just a research paper on this particular topic. And it was about since we're on the topic of property taxes, it was a study bill about the shifting from market-based property taxes to acquisition-based. Wouldn't have actually done anything. It just would have been a study bill. I voted no because it's like, all right, we don't need to study this. We just need to do it. And so that was my rationale. And I know there's some folks who are out there, coming at me or flinging mud at me over that vote. And by all means, go for it. But the reason I voted no is because it's like, let's not study this. Let's just do it. Let's actually put together legislation that actually enables this shift to acquisition-based and get it into law. So that was my thought process behind that.
What would that change?
So without boring your audience to death, the way property taxes are assessed is basically this. If you live in a neighborhood and all of a sudden there are homes that go up for sale and that are purchased at a certain price, that in theory raises the price of all the homes in that neighborhood. In a sense, that's good for you because your net worth has gone up because your home is worth more. On paper, your net value has increased, and that's good. The problem lies when it comes time to be assessed because your taxes are based off what it could sell for on the open market.
Not what it was purchased for.
Right.
Yeah.
At the open market at that time. And so that's why you're seeing the amount people are paying go up and up and up every year, and people are really upset. And I fully share their concern because of the last couple of years, home prices in Sheridan have just gone sky high. They were never cheap, but especially coronavirus, it really put property values through the roof. And so what I think is a good idea is going from that market-based approach, the market value of your home, to the acquisition-based approach, meaning on the first year you bought your home, if you're paying $1,000 in property taxes, that's what you're going to pay so long as you live and live in and own that home. The day comes when you sell it, whether it's 3 years or 30. When you do sell it, the next buyer jumps into a higher property tax bracket, but they're going to continue to pay that rate the duration of their ownership. Again, when they sell it, it jumps into a new one. But the idea is that there will not be and there cannot be any kind of these sudden spikes that we've seen of 20%, 30%, 40%, some are even 50% increases year over year in the amount they're paying on property taxes. So that's the idea. I think it's pretty fair. I think it really gives that stability that I think citizens need. And the other problem is this. You pay your property taxes once a year. And so let's say if your bill is $5,000, in November, you got to go down to the treasurer's office and stroke a check for $5,000. And, there are some folks out there who, can do that, and that's good for them. However,
the majority of us cannot do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of, especially if you're living on Social Security on $1,600 a month. That's a really serious financial burden that you're incurring. So the other thing I'd like to see is perhaps transitioning to where we're only paying that same way as the mortgage, a little bit every month until you're caught up for that year. Breaking it out into 12 months, which makes it a little bit easier, I think, for folks versus just having to take this really big hit to your wallet every November. You can break that up into two. I think the second payment's in May, but I think still spreading it out over 12 months is a lot easier than doing it in one hit or two. So that's kind of my thought.
Even $2,500 at a pop is considerable amount of funds for a lot of individuals.
Yeah, again, there's folks who are living on Social Security on $1,600 a month. If they have to go down and write a check for $1,500, that's an entire month's worth of income. Poof, gone.
Yeah,
and they got to figure out a different plan. And
now,
so,
what are the problems that face a tax system like this? I mean, we could say, well, that would greatly reduce the revenue coming in.
The reason I like the moving to acquisition based is this. There are other options on the table for sure. The county could draw less mills. I think they take 12 mills, I want to say. You might have to fact check me on that number. The city could take less mills as well. Which I think is 8 or 9. You'd have to fact check me, but that could create issues. You've got conservation districts. You've got all these, the school districts. They take a bunch of mills. I think 24 or 25. So that is an option. I think we should at least discuss it to really fully vet the idea. But I think the one way that can ensure that the lowering tide lowers all ships is through this acquisition-based approach and transitioning to that. I think there's something I've been working on in staying in communication with the county and the city to have this conversation with them too and saying, hey, we've got this problem that we got to work on. We have lots of options of how to address it, but I think we need to talk about that and what options work best for you as a county or you as a conservation district or you as the city, because we got to do something. Let's at least try to work on the same page or work together to come up with a mutually agreed upon solution so we can help folks out.
Absolutely. We've got another caller. Go ahead, caller. You are on Public Pulse. Go ahead, caller. Nope, looks like we may have lost him. So during the redistricting process, can you explain what your district looks like now? Did yours change?
It did change a little bit. Yep. Some of the neighborhoods in town that I no longer have. Some of the ones near Kendrick Park are now in House District 29, which is currently Mark Kinner's district. I no longer have Story in my district. And the reason I lost them is this. Your districts need to be within a certain population range. Not necessarily an exact number, but within a pretty tight range. And if you go over or under that range, you are outside of deviation is the term that we were using this past session. And so because my district is Bighorn, it's Story, or what was Story, it's Ranchester, Dayton, the Tongue River Valley, out towards Big Goose, the places people want to live in Sheridan. And so my district gained about 1,000 people or so over the last 10 years. So I needed to shed about 1,000 people into somebody else's district. And so that came in the form of Story, which is, right around 800, 900-ish people, depending, if you're including seasonal residents. So some of those folks went into the Johnson County district, which is Barry Crego's district. And again, I did shed some of these neighborhoods here in town to Mark Kinner's district. So
now you all worked together up here, which was fantastic to see, and that's just my opinion. But it was great to see a bunch of the representatives come together and really discuss this.
Yep.
Now, but the state kind of had some issues with the way that you guys wanted to get this done. Can you explain to folks how you guys managed to pull that off?
Yeah. So my priority, any legislator's priority, is first and foremost is to serve your district and to do what's best for the people who live in your district. That can kind of get messy on a given issue when we're all working together in Cheyenne trying to get stuff done. And so there was some spirited debate about deviations and how if you adjusted the deviation, say in northeast part of Wyoming, that might actually have an impact on some of the districts in southwest Wyoming, because you got to make sure you're balanced across the entire state.
Like shifting a puzzle while you're building it.
Yeah, very much so, actually. That's a really good analogy. So there was some pretty spirited debate we had, but I think in the end, and I think this is the most important thing, we were able to come together, find a solution that we could be pretty much on target where we needed to be and have everybody's concerns addressed. And so in that case, that meant the Story district, if you look at each Senate district, has 2 House districts inside it. So so for example, Bo Bidman's Senate district, his 2 House members are myself and Mark Kinner. And so the solution that we found, I think, wasn't perfect, but I think it was pretty good. I think it really addressed the concerns. Was we take that Story part, that gets moved into Barry's House district, right? But instead of that going into Dave Kinski's district, that stays in Bo's district, right? Because Dave Kinski's 2 House members are Mark Jennings and Barry Craigo. So what we did was, the term we used is we unnested the districts. And so that was a way that we could kind of address the population issues from the House maps and be pretty close to within the target range across both Senate and House maps. And so it wasn't the perfect solution, but I think it was a good workable one. So,
and we'll certainly see the outcome during this year's election.
For sure.
Now, I've only got about 3 minutes left, so and I want to give you about 2 minutes to say what you'd like to say. But just real quick, do you have a platform this year?
Sure. One of the biggest things I'm running on, or the biggest thing, is this property tax issue. It really is a concern. There are folks in my district who are well off, who can pay that. Good for them. The reality is this is something that can really squeeze middle-class families and senior citizens, certainly in my district and across the state. And the legislature has to do something. I think the top solution is transitioning to acquisition-based, but we need to do something. And that's one of my top things I'm talking about on the campaign trail. And that's going to be one of my top priorities in Cheyenne next session.
And now you got about 2 minutes. Go ahead and just tell the public whatever you'd like.
Well, I guess I've been incredibly fortunate to be serving in this position the last couple of years. It's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. You know, I think kind of doing offense and defense, protecting, our constitutional rights, the Second Amendment, those kind of things, but also looking forward into the future. What kind of future, economic future, do we want? That's one of the biggest issues. And this is not just this next session. This is one of the, big picture things that I'm working on. I think that we as a legislature have to figure out is what kind of economic future do we want for our state? Fossil fuels are amazing, and we need to have a 2-pronged approach of continuing to encourage and protect our legacy industries, which I'm proud of having a record of doing, but also thinking about how do we get more Weatherby's here? How do we get more Vacutechs, the EMITs, these people who create these jobs in our communities? Because jobs in the economy, that's it. That's the magic sauce that makes an entire thing happen. If you only have really rich people and really poor people and no middle class, that's not a thriving community. We need to make sure that I'm very thankful that Sheridan's doing a great job, but as a state and as a community, how can we continue to shape our economic future and to make sure we're a viable place to live, work, and raise a family? That's it.
Representative, thank you so much for coming in this morning. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. You've been listening to Public Pulse on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
This is Eric Jacobson, partner at Eliason Financial. I think we can all agree that living and working in Sheridan, Wyoming is an absolute privilege. At Eliason Financial, we support our community through volunteerism, philanthropy, and making a positive